Thank you for joining us to continue our study of the Book of Heaven. We're in volume 18. The first reading will be November 19th, 1925. I want to start with a Hail, Holy Queen. This, as I mentioned in the email that I sent out to those who study with us online, is a very Marian week, and of course, all of Advent and Christmas very Marian as well. We celebrated the Immaculate Conception and Our Lady of Loreto, an optional memorial that was established by Pope Francis. And now today, also St. Juan Diego, and the words that I'm going to share in just a moment are her words to him. And through his experience and the message of Our Lady of Guadalupe, those words are also for us. And so we pray, Hail, Holy Queen, Mother of Mercy, our life, our sweetness, and our hope. To thee do we cry, poor banished children of Eve. To thee do we send up our sighs, mourning and weeping in this valley of tears. Turn then, most gracious Advocate, thine eyes of mercy toward us, and after this our exile, show unto us the blessed fruit of thy womb, Jesus. O clement, O loving, O sweet Virgin Mary, pray for us, O Holy Mother of God, that we may be made worthy of the promises of Christ. And we can appeal to the Blessed Mother, especially during Advent, certainly every day throughout the year, but especially during Advent, to help us prepare more perfectly to celebrate the birth of our Lord, and also to want to be more and more like her. You know, the early church fathers said that the Blessed Virgin Mary conceived him in her heart before she conceived him in her womb. And in the Joyful Mysteries, we just had her saying to us, she did not dare to even think that because of her humility, that she would be the one chosen. Yet she already had a maternal heart, and in reading the Virgin in the Kingdom, we can understand more beautifully, I think, than in any other writings on the Immaculate Conception, on the saving merits of our Lord applied to her in advance, and this maternal heart that she had for all of us. So we can certainly appeal to her at this time, not only to celebrate the birth of Christ, as important as that is, but also to celebrate this period in human history when the gift of the divine will is being offered to all who want to gain the knowledges and grow in the esteem of the gift that God is offering. And so I'm going to bring up just a little piece about St. Juan Diego. You know that I think that everybody that's joining with us online, so for live participation, but also those who will be watching the recording of this study session, know the story of Our Lady of Guadalupe. If not, I really encourage you to look at some of the video clips related to the whole history, and definitely the miraculous discoveries that continue to unfold related to the tilma. Just briefly, we know that she asked Juan Diego to take a message to the bishop asking that a church would be built so that she could have people come to her with their needs and experience the beauty and power of her intercession and her tender heart for those, especially those who are downtrodden and suffering in any way. He was turned away after conveying the message that she wanted the church, and the bishop asked for a sign. Story goes longer, and I won't go into all the details, but as he was trying to skirt around another way to avoid encountering her a second time, she stopped him and asked him where he was going, and he explained what the bishop had said. And so she told him to go make a collection of flowers that could not have been blooming on the mountain in that season, and especially in that region. They were Castilian roses. And this is what she said to him, and I would say that she's saying it to us as well. Hear me and understand well, my son, the least. So humility is a key. that nothing should frighten or grieve you. Let not your heart be disturbed. Do not fear that sickness, that was his uncle's sickness, nor any other sickness or anguish. So in other words, be not afraid. Am I not here, who is your mother? Are you not under my protection? Am I not your health? Are you not happy within my fold? What else do you wish? Do not grieve nor be disturbed by anything. She wants us to know that her intercession is always available, and in a special way, those who draw close to her, those who choose to be under her mantle, will say this prayer for the end of the meeting. So those words to Saint Juan Diego, they're words to us. She has a motherly concern for each and every one of us. We get to decide whether we want to be under her mantle, drawing close to her. And she asks Saint Juan Diego, are you not happy because of that? And already he was very strong in the faith. And I would say largely because of his honor that he would give to the Blessed Mother. And now he has the high privilege in his humility. Several times she referred to him as the least among men. And so not thinking highly of himself. And we know that humility and obedience is the key if we want to grow in the divine will, especially if we want to receive the gift of the divine will. The desire is absolutely necessary, but the desire has to animate the choices that we make and the surrender that we offer. And so, if you would, John, we'll start with November 19th, 1925, please.
November 19th. The divine will wants the company of the creature to be able to enrich her and instruct her, giving her the possession of the good it manifests to her. I felt as though immersed in the immense sea of the supreme volition, and I would have wanted, as my adorable Jesus tells me, to let nothing escape me of all the acts it has done, does, and will do, which for Jesus are one single act, and to be always with this divine will, to give it my little return of love and of thanksgiving. I would have wanted to at least make a long note of all the acts of this supreme will in order to admire and praise what it can do and to remain always with it, never leaving it alone. But alas, my littleness is such that I get lost and I don't know where to grab it in order to follow it because I find it everywhere. It is always in the act of working surprising things, both in great and in small things. But while I was thinking of this, my sweet Jesus, coming out from within my interior, told me, daughter of my holy will, a child must know what his father does. He must know what he possesses, and he must be able to say to the Father, what is yours is mine. If it were not so, it would mean that there is not highest accord between father and son, or that maybe he is not a legitimate son of his father. In the same way, one who is true and child of my will must know that what it does and the immense goods it produces. To live in my will is exactly this, to keep company to all the acts which my will does. It does not want to live isolated in the midst of creation, but wants the company of the creature, for whom, because it loves her so much, it maintains the order of the whole creation and becomes life of each thing. And when it finds the soul who keeps it company in this life, which it maintains in the whole universe, my will rejoices, makes feast, and feels happy. It finds the one whom it loves, and by whom it is loved in return. It finds one to whom it can make known what it possesses, and in its happiness, it narrates to the soul the secrets of its volition, its value, and its surprising effects. But this is the least. As it narrates its knowledges, what it does and what it is, It makes to her a donation of that which it manifests to her. And more than valid deed, it has been knowledge itself to impress in the soul, with characters of light, the possession of the goods which their knowledge contains. Oh, how beautiful is the sanctity, the power, the immensity of my will, as it associates with the littleness of the human will, in the act of keeping it company. It always wants to give. It never stops. It wants to see the littleness become beautiful, rich, powerful. It wants to keep it always close to itself, to be able to give to it always. There is nothing more beautiful, more gracious, more surprising to be seen than a soul who tries to follow the acts of the will of her Creator. There is a continuous contest between them, a reciprocal love, a continuous giving and receiving. Oh, if you knew how rich you are! As many things as you know about my will, so many goods you possess. If you count them, you will get lost and will remain drowned within them. Therefore, be attentive in following the acts of my will, if you want to keep me continuous company.
For many years now, when I've had the privilege of meeting with or studying with those that are relatively new to the writings, the emphasis is to read, read, read. In fact, a presenter at one of our retreats said that he got frustrated initially when he was coming to our meetings because he was hearing me say time after time, read, read, read. Well, the reason is because we have the Lord himself wanting us to understand how important it is to gain the knowledges, and the knowledges are granted as we read, demonstrating a desire to know more, that he is giving us in explanations so that our esteem for the gift is increasing, our desire. He says, as many things as you know about my will, so many goods you possess. Now, that's not an automatic reality unless the desire is truly there. So a person could be reading through the volumes and have no desire, even the intention to try and find fault with the writings or come up with reasons to say, well, this is not for me. And so it's not forced upon a person. But if a person wants to gain the knowledges, wants to know what the Lord is offering, wants to learn how to avail oneself to the gift of the divine will, unto living in the divine will, the gift of the divine will and living in the divine will there's a progression. It's not like once you receive the gift, now you got it in your finished product. We're in volume 18, and the Lord is giving Luisa instructions related to her own living the will of God. And we know that it was when she was young, she was in her 20s when she received the gift. She didn't realize that she had received the gift until volume 11, when he points out to her that she had had the gift, when she's talking about how wonderful and how she wished that she could have the gift. And he said, you have it. So there's this development, this increase that is directly related to the knowledges and trying to apply to the best of our ability. He's the one that works the wonder in us, but trying to apply what we're gaining in the way of knowledges that comes by way of the reading. So at the beginning of this passage, in the third paragraph, daughter of my will, a child must know. So here is the one that's giving us the opportunity for the knowledges. A child must know what his father does. He must know what he possesses. And so he wants us to know what is already ours and what is being offered to us, what he's given to us. It has our name on it, so to speak, but unless we know it, we can't even be filled with joy over what he's offering. What is to reaching the point of this knowledge is to bring us to this understanding that what belongs to the Father belongs to the Son or daughter. What is his is ours, and that possession of the gift increases at the level of our understanding what he's giving. He says, if it were not so, it would mean that there is not highest accord. And so when people don't know, when they don't have the knowledge of what he's offering, the good that it can do for us, but also the good that it brings to the Most Holy Trinity, we see the Lord saying that there's a difference between a true child of the divine will or an illegitimate child of God. To live in my will is exactly this. So I, at the beginning of this paragraph, I started because Jesus himself is defining for us what living in the will of God is. So it's important to keep in mind that we should continually invite the divine will to do all that we are doing, to speak in our speaking, to study in our studying, to read in our reading. If there's this constant invitation, the divinization of our acts, if we're in the state of grace and we're not looking for personal benefit, we really want to be what God has created us to be in this critical time in human history. We want to make ourselves available for all that he wants to accomplish in and through us. So to live in my will is exactly this, Jesus says, to keep company to all the acts which my will does. And so we have this pointing to the very way that Luisa prayed, these rounds, this meditating upon the wonders of creation and the hand of God in everything that he has created, and the sustaining power and life of all that he has created, and the beauty that he places in unique ways in every aspect of creation, and certainly in his creation of humanity. And so this meditating upon this attentiveness as we go through the day in the course of whatever our duties are, there can still be this. It's not like the tendency can be to compartmentalize devotional prayer, which is good. Inviting the divine will into devotional prayer is good and better, but then to go into the rest of the details of the day without wanting the divine will to be the life of everything that we're doing, it's like having a conversation and saying goodbye. Whereas he wants us to remember that he's with us all the time. Even when Luisa is going through the horrific pain of being deprived of a sense of his presence, which Jesus acknowledges when she says it's like dying, or it's worse than dying. And he, in several places in the volumes, acknowledges if he was not sustaining her by his will, she was suffering so much it would be unto death. And so even with that he's in her interior, and she knows this, but she's being deprived in such a way that gives her agony. And we can focus on the fact that he is with us always and everywhere. In fact, the more that we maintain that mindset, the more we can be in this conversation with him as we go through the course of the day and everything that's going on. Some people talk to themselves all day long. The thoughts are like a conversation that they're having with themselves. Well, you can direct that kind of conversation related to realization, or what should I do next, or whatever it is that duties that have to be dealt with, in a communion with the one who is our life. And so here he's talking about this. Think about it. My will rejoices and makes feast and feels happy when there is a soul that is striving to maintain this unity, this focus on all the acts of the will of God. Keeping his acts company is the way he says this. It makes to her a donation. When she does this, it makes to her a donation of that which it manifests to her. So the gaining the knowledge is, when we want the knowledge, is he gives us what his lessons are manifesting at the level that we can understand it, and he will expand our capacity for understanding more. He goes on, it always wants to give. It never stops. It makes me think of when Luisa says to him, you're never satisfied. And she's not complaining. She's saying you're never satisfied in that you always want to give more. You give and you give and you give, and there's no end to what you want to do for the sons and daughters that are yours. There is nothing more beautiful. This is in the last paragraph. I started this as well. There is nothing more beautiful, more gracious, more surprising to be seen. This is in the gaze of the Most Holy Trinity, than a soul who tries to follow the acts of the will of her Creator. So the Most Holy Trinity, to God, there's nothing more beautiful than for you or me to be wanting to gain the knowledges and then to live them in a way that honors, glorifies the Most Holy Trinity. As many things as you know about my will, so many goods you possess. So I would say, read, read, read. And I recommend that you make the sign of the cross before you start to read. You ask the Lord and the Blessed Mother to put in you the seeds of light that every one of these words are in the realm or for the reign of the divine will. Okay, we move on.
November 22nd, 1925. The good which the soul receives by living of divine will. The acts in it form the dew which covers all creatures. I was fusing myself in the holy divine volition according to my usual way, trying as much as I could to embrace everything in my little lap in order to place my little I love you, my thank you, my adoration, my bless you upon all created things with the power of the supreme fiat, so as to keep company to this supreme will, which is spread out with so much love throughout creation. But while I was doing this, I thought to myself, what does my soul receive by living in this celestial atmosphere of the supreme will? At that moment, my adorable Jesus came out from within my interior and, squeezing me all to himself, told me, my daughter, do you want to know what the soul receives by living in my will? It receives the union of the supreme will with hers. And in this union, my will assumes the role of making her equal to itself. So my will is holy, is pure, is light, and it wants to make the soul pass into its holiness, purity, and light. And if the role of the soul is to live in my will, the role of mine is to give my likeness to the human will in a perfect way. This is why I want you always in it, so that I may not only keep you in its company, but make you grow in its likeness. This is why I feed you the food of its knowledges, to make you grow in a divine manner and with its perfect likeness. And this is why I want you always together with my will, wherever it operates, that it may give you the act of its working, the value which the work of a divine will contains, and that you may receive it.
You may receive it is the point that he's making related to this food. Now he's the knowledge is he's saying is he's feeding us with a food of the divine will with the knowledges. So when we go to read and we make the sign of the cross and we ask that the light of these knowledges are granted to us, it's a nourishment more important than the nutrition we need for good health, because this is a nutrition for the soul. The knowledge is on the divine will is a nutrition for the soul. It strengthens the soul. In this paragraph, he says, what the soul receives by living in my will, it receives the union of the supreme will with hers. In this union now, he says, makes equal. And we don't want to become literalistic, exclusively related to this sentence and say, oh, then all of a sudden the person is on a par with God. but he is making clear that when the divine will is reigning, there is a divine quality. It's God himself that's operating. It's God's own likeness that is the very life of the soul. And so there's this movement. And here we are in 18. She's already received the gift, a point I just made. And he's explaining to her what happens. He says, making her equal to itself. So my will is holy, is pure and light, and it wants to make the soul pass into the holiness, the purity, and the light of God. So it's a great gift beyond our understanding that he can bring about, but it has to be understood as pure gift. So this using the expression equal is because it's his own that he puts into the soul. It's his own light, his own purity. It's not our possession other than it's given to us to possess. And it's as much as is possible for a creature. He makes that qualification many times, that the goods that he has to offer are infinite at the level that is possible for a creature. And he says, I feed you the food of its knowledges. Well, the more that we want to be fed, the healthier we become spiritually. We move on.
On hearing this, I said, my love, your will is everywhere. Therefore, everyone lives in it. Yet not everyone received this likeness. And Jesus soon added, and so what, my daughter? It is true that all live in my will, because there is not one point in which my will is not, but almost all live in it as foreigners or as mercenaries, others by force, others as rebellious. These live in it but do not know it, nor do they know its goods. On the contrary, they are the usurpers of the very life which they have received by my will. Each act of these is a dissimilarity that they acquire between their will and that of their Creator. It is the confirmation of their poverty, of their passions, and of the thick darkness which fills them, in such a way that they are blind to all that is heaven. In order to reach parity with my will, one cannot live as a foreigner, but as a possessor. One who wants to live in it must look at all things as his own and have all the care for them. This is why it is necessary to know it in order to love it and possess it. As beautiful and good as something may be, if it does not become completely to one who possesses it, it is not loved, it is not esteemed, it is not handled with all the care it deserves. One has always cold eyes in looking at it, and a lifeless heart to love it. On the other hand, if that something belonged to him, he would be all eyes in looking at it, and all heart in loving it. He would esteem it, and would reach the point of making of it an idol for his heart. That thing in itself has not become more beautiful. What it was still is. It hasn't gone through any change. It is the person who went through a change by acquiring it and by keeping it exclusively as his own.
So
Here
he's
is
saying here that the person's understanding of what is possessed is what changes the person's joy, the value, the esteem, because now there's this greater awareness of what is being offered, and that's why he wants to feed us with these knowledges. He makes a pretty strong distinction between those who know and love the will of God and those who do not. On the previous page, he says, my love, your will is, oh, she says, your will is everywhere, therefore everyone lives in it. And he's confirming that. Nobody exists outside of the will of God, but that's not living in the will of God at the level that he's explaining he wants for each and every one of us. It's To exist is to be in the will of God. There's no existence outside of the will of God. And so that's the point that she's making. And he then goes to make it clear there are some that, yes, because of their existence, because they live in my will, he says, but almost all live in it as foreigners. Think about that. He says almost all. And so he's calling us to a whole new life in his will. He says some are like mercenaries, they force others by force, or others as rebels. They're usurpers. So they're using up the very gift of existence and all the goods that the Lord makes possible in the course of their existence for their own benefit, and not giving a thought to the one who is the giver of every good gift, the giver of all of our existence. Then in the next paragraph, one who wants to live in it must look at all things as his own. And he qualifies it. Because there's a lot of people that are using a lot of things, living a life with an attitude of entitlement, like they can use everything because it's as good as theirs, and that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about the possession of something with the care that the good that's possessed should have. So he says all things as its own, and have all the care for them. And this is exactly what we see in Luisa's life. So many times her care for people who are suffering, her care for people who deserve punishment, who are going through chastisements because of sinfulness. And her care is so intense because of the love that she has for the Lord. It's like they are her brothers and sisters at a level that she understands better than just the superficial acknowledgement that we are all brothers and sisters in God. She has this same kind of care and concern that the Lord himself has for us, because it's the Lord's own love and concern that she's experiencing as she's living in the will of God. Then on the next page, this next paragraph that John's going to start with, I triple starred because this is so important for all of it is, but I think this is so important for us at this point with this lesson that we have. And I bracketed after this paragraph that John's going to start with all the way to the end, so that we take to heart these lessons that he's giving us related to this knowledge and the likeness he wants to bring about in us.
Here is what the soul receives by living in my will. She receives it as her own. She possesses it. She feels all its celestial aura, its life of heaven, the likeness of the one who created her. And as she lives in my will, she feels studded with the reflections of her creator. In everything, she feels the power of that fiat which gives life to all things. And from the sea of the goods she possesses, she says, "How happy I am! The will of God is mine, all mine. I possess it, and I love it. Therefore, all the acts done in my will diffuse all over, and all take part in them. See, when you were saying at daybreak, may my mind rise in the supreme will, in order to cover the intelligences of all creatures with your will, so that all may rise in it, and in the name of all I give you the adoration, the love, the submission of all created intelligences. While you were saying this, a celestial dew poured upon all creatures and covered them, bringing to all of them the return of your act. Oh, how beautiful it was to see all creatures with this celestial dew which my will formed, symbolized by the night dew, which can be found in the morning upon all plants, embellishing them, fecundating them, and preventing those which are about to wither from drying up. With its celestial touch, it seems to give them a touch of life, to make them vegetate. How enchanting is the dew at daybreak! but much more enchanting and beautiful is the dew of the acts which the soul forms in my will. And I, yet my love and my life, with all this dew, creatures still do not change. And Jesus, if the night dew does so much good to the plants, unless it falls on dry wood, which it is severed from the plants, or upon things which have no life, such that even if they remain covered with dew and somehow embellished by it, the dew is as though dead for them. And as the sun rises, little by little it withdraws from them. Much more good does the dew which my will makes descend upon souls, unless they are completely dead to grace. Yet by the vivifying virtue it possesses, even if they are dead, it tries to infuse in them a breath of life. But all the others, some more, some less, according to their dispositions, feel the effects of this beneficial dew.
So that all the others is really important. And we don't, it's not for us to decide or to judge who is going to be benefiting or not, because we don't know the level or condition of souls, even if the externals indicate some pretty desperate situations. uh, what I bracketed at the beginning of that second paragraph, maybe the third on this page, is an excellent example of how we could at least use her words as the beginning of our morning prayers, morning offerings. He says, when you were saying at daybreak, so at the beginning of your day, maybe as soon as you wake up or you go to take the place of your morning prayers, uh, this would be a good way to um, use the very prayers that Jesus himself is making clear works a wonder in the will of God. May my mind rise in the supreme will in order to cover the intelligences of all creatures with your will, so that all may rise in it, and in the same and in the name of all, I give you, so this is on behalf of all souls, past, present, and future, the adoration, the love, the submission of all created intelligences. Now, she prayed this with and in the divine will. So it wasn't just a pious prayer. It was put in motion what the will of God was bringing about in that prayer, because the will of God was the animator of that prayer. She gave voice, but he gave the power, the words, the life of that prayer, because he then goes on to say, oh, how beautiful it was to see creatures with this celestial dew upon them. And so, towards the end of this section, it's clear that at whatever level there's a disposition, uh, souls benefit, and we won't necessarily see the fruit of it on this side of the threshold, but we will be astounded to see the very things that the Lord is describing here happened with that prayer. And this was just the prayer of her beginning of the day. And so what we're to gain from this is that if we spend the course of the day wanting to be fused in the will of God, and praying on behalf of all souls, past, present, and future, giving the Most Holy Trinity what the Trinity deserves, imploring graces of conversion or forgiveness and mercy, that there are benefits that are touching people that maybe hardly disposed, but if there's any disposition at all, even a pinhole of openness to God, there's some benefit for them. And that happens when we pray with and in the divine will, giving voice to all creatures. Okay, we move on.
December 6th, 1925. The living in the divine will, symbolized by the starry heavens, encloses everything. It binds and orders everything. I was doing in my interior my usual acts in the supreme volition, embracing all creation and all creatures, in order to make all of their acts my own, and return my God with my little love, for all that he has done in creation, and for all that all creatures should do. But while I was doing this, a thought told me, "You take so much time in doing this, and what is the good you do? What is the glory you give to your God?" At that moment, my sweet Jesus moved into my interior, and stretching out his arms, it seemed he wanted to embrace everyone and everything. Then rising up high, he offered everything to the celestial Father, and then said to me, "Daughter, the true living in the supreme will is exactly this. I must find everything and everyone in the depth of the soul. Everything that my will has delivered in creation for the good of the creatures must be bound in the soul with her love. By living in my will and through her return of love, she is already bound and in possession of all that my will has done and will do. And she loves as my will loves and can love. So, given all this, by true living in my will and by having bound everything to herself, I find in the soul the starry heavens, the refulgent sun, the vastness of the seas, the prairies of flowers. I find everything in her. Therefore, is it not right that the soul, jumping from one thing to another upon all that is mine and hers, recognizes it, and playing upon all created things, impresses on each one of them her kiss and her little I love you, for the one who has created so many things to give them all as gifts to the creatures, displaying to him by this as many different loves for as many things as he created, since he so much loves that man be happy, that he gave him not only what is necessary, but also the surplus. But
So
this is
he's
not,
saying that when it is his will that's animating the prayer, the very request that she's making or the intention that she forms, it's a divinized act, and so it is a reality. He's making it clear that this is actually happening. So this is in response to the question of that occurs to her. What I spend so much time on this, or what is the good of it? And so he's explaining that the good is infinite value, and it is on behalf of all souls. It brings to him what he deserves, and puts her "I love you" on everything. And so he's encouraging us. I dog-eared this page and I put at the top of this December 6, 1925, I put "our work." And then I put "read it all" and use it as a springboard for your own prayers. So whenever we have the Lord explaining how it pleases him so much and that an infinite good is being accomplished, that it's not just a pious idea, but it is a reality that he brings about by his most holy will, which is without limit, but it takes the soul that's praying with the divine will for these goods to be accomplished. We move on.
but this is not all. Not only must I find the whole creation, but since the true living in my will binds everyone, I must find in the soul, as though in act, Adam the saint, just as he came out from my creative hands, as well as Adam guilty, humiliated, and crying, so that she may be bound with him in the state of sanctity, and taking part in his innocent and holy acts, she may give me glory and make the whole creation smile once again. And then sharing in his tears, with him she may long for that rejected fiat, which had caused so much ruin. I must find in her the prophets, the patriarchs, the holy fathers, with all of their acts. And if those longed for the Redeemer, you will long for my supreme fiat as triumph and fulfillment of their size. I want to find my inseparable Mama with all her acts, which my will worked so many portents, as she had full dominion of it. I want to find all of myself and all my acts. In sum, I want to find all my things, all that belongs to me, all that my supreme will has done and will do, because these are things which are inseparable from me, and it is just and necessary that they become inseparable from the one who lives in my will. So if I do not find everything, it cannot be said that she lives completely in my will. And in looking at her, I do not find in her all of my things. Rather, I see them spread out outside of the soul, and I cannot receive her return of love for all that belongs to me. Have I perhaps not created the creature so that she might be a little world and a little God? This is why I always say to you that living in my will is not yet known. And I keep teaching you now something else, enlarging your capacity so that all my things and all the good which my will delivered may enter into you. I want to hear you repeat to me your return of love in everything that belongs to me. I do not just tolerate that one who lives in my will may not know all of my things. It may not love them and possess them. Otherwise, what would be the great prodigy of living in my will? After this, my sweet Jesus remained silent. And while I wandered within the divine will, oh, how I would have wanted to place my loving and grateful kiss upon all created things, in my little I love you, in all the supreme acts of the divine will, a divine volition, in order to remain bound to them and they to me, to be able to surround my Jesus in me with all the acts of the eternal will.
So
In the
this is her
meantime,
desire, and she's uh, has this intense desire because of the explanations that he's giving her. So the knowledge is this, that he's imparting, and this longing that she has is so that she will spend a course of every day accomplishing in prayer these works. That's why at the top of this passage dated December 6, 1925. I wrote our work. So we can use this as an example, explanations, and an example of the way that we can go through our meditations on creation, on redemption, on sanctification, and with a generous amount of time, and even as we go about our duties in the course of the day. He says, I want to hear her repeat to me your return of love in everything that belongs to me. And I love you, I praise you, I thank you as we go through specific focuses as it relates to creation, redemption, and sanctification. He says, otherwise, what would be the great prodigy of living in my will? There are lots of devotions, as good as they are, but this life in the divine will is a participation in all that he does, has done, is doing, will do, because he's eternally now. So there's not a past, present, and future for him in our understanding, past, present, and future. I want to go back to that line, have I perhaps not created the creature so that she might be a little world and a little God? The early church father focused on this goodness of God and what he's made possible for us in creating us in his image and likeness, and striving for a restoration of that image and likeness, the perfection which he, in the divine will, has been teaching us tonight, especially. And so the writing was, God became man so that man can become God, and definitely lowercase g on the part of man becoming God. But in this likeness, that reality of our becoming God has to be the divinization of one throughout the course of the day by the gift of the divine will and operating with and in the divine will, so that the actions and everything we say, everything we do is divinized. So it's God Himself operating, His likeness being not just restored, but animating all that we are. We move on.
In the meantime, I saw a starry heaven, and my adorable Jesus continued, "My daughter, look at the heavens. What order, what harmonies among the stars. One star cannot be without the other. They are so bound together that each one sustains the other. Each one is the strength of the other. If, may this never be, one single star moved from its place, there would be such confusion and disorder in the atmosphere that there would be the danger that everything would end up in ruin. So all the beauty of the heavens is in fact that each one of them stays in his place in the common union and in the communicative and attractive power which they have among themselves, and which more than electricity keeps them suspended and bound to one another. Man is the new heaven, and more than the heavens above the earth. It can be said that each creature is an animated star. All that the first man Adam did up to the last one to come will do. Everything was to be in common among them. Therefore, man was not to possess only his own strength, but the strength of all. All goods were to be in common among them. My will, more than electricity, was to bring among them the bond and the communication of all that is good and holy. And even though each one was to do his own office and be occupied with different activities or different actions, since everyone was to start from the primary point of my will, all were to be converted into light, and therefore each one was to be light for the other. This is why my sorrow in seeing this heaven of the creatures being messed up was so great as to be incomprehensible to human mind. Once my will was removed, which binds everyone and connects everything, disorder came in, confusion, disunion, weakness, darkness. Poor heaven of the creatures, it can no longer be recognized. Only living in my will reorder this heaven once again and will make it shine with new light. This is why I tell you that I want to find everyone and everything in you. My will, prime act of all celestial and terrestrial creatures, will bring you the communication of all their acts, and you will remain bound to them, and they to you. Therefore, living in my will encloses everything and everyone. So be attentive, for I want to give you the greatest thing which exists, but I want great things and highest attention from you. One who gives much, much wants to receive.
So each one of us was created to be a little heaven. And then he, after making that point, he says, poor heaven of the creatures that can no longer be recognized. And so he's calling us to be sons and daughters of the divine will with a restoration of each of us a little heaven, a little place within whom all that exists is being covered with divine love, divine adoration, gratitude, sorrow for sins. That's the example that he gave when he said that she was to contain within herself Adam in the joy before the fall, and then the tears of Adam after the fall, in a reparation to the supreme fiat that had been rejected. And so this is part of, as I mentioned at the beginning of this passage, our work. And so he says here, therefore, living in my will encloses everything and everyone. Living in his will is to encompass within us everything and everyone. So he says, be attentive, for I want to give you the greatest thing that exists, but I want great things and highest attention from you. So when we gain these knowledges and strive to apply what we understand as we're going through them, it works well to say, I want what you want. Help me to only want what you want. And if we're striving to live that way, we take what he says he can accomplish with the divine will operating in us. And so it's his own I want that is operating in us when we strive to accomplish what he's giving us as lessons, the knowledges of what he's offering and what he's making available to us. Remember earlier on, he said he wants us to be able to say, what is his is ours. And then he wants us to not just say what is his is ours, but to have the same kind of care for what is ours because of what he's giving us. Care and concern, gratitude that he deserves on behalf of all souls, past, present, and future. And so we'll close with prayer. We'll use this, as I mentioned at the beginning of our study, because we celebrated the feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and the role that the Blessed Mother has in keeping us under her mantle, if we want to be under her mantle. We turn to, oh, okay, that's the wrong one. Let me pull up. We turn to the Blessed Mother with this appeal of Luisa. Sweetest Mother, behold us here prostrate at the foot of your throne. We are your little children who want to give you all our filial love, and as your children, we want to intertwine all the little sacrifices, the invocations, and our promises that we have made so many times to never do our will. And forming a crown, we want to place it on your lap as proof of our love and gratitude toward our mother. But this is not all. We want to take it into your hands we want you to take it into your hands as the sign that you accept our gift, and at the touch of your maternal fingers, change it for us into so many sons, at least for as many times as we have tried to do the divine will in our little acts. Ah, yes, Mother and Queen, your children want to give you the homage of light and of the most refulgent sons. We know that you have so many of these sons, but they are not the sons of your children of the divine fiat. Therefore, we want to give you ours, to tell you that we love you and engage you to love us even more. Holy Mother, you smile at us, and with all kindness you accept our gift, and we thank you with all our heart. But we want to tell you so many things. We want to enclose in you, in your maternal heart, our pains, our fears, our weaknesses. Our whole being is in the heart of our Mother of Refuge. We want to consecrate our will to you, O our Mother accepted. Make it a triumph of grace in a field where the divine will may extend its kingdom. Our will consecrated to you will render us inseparable and will keep us in continual relationship. The doors of heaven will not close for us, for having consecrated our will to you, you will give us yours in exchange. Therefore, either Mother will come to be with her children on earth, or the children will go to live with their mother in heaven. Oh, how happy we shall be. Listen, dearest Mother, to make the consecration of your will, of our will to you, more solemn, call the sacrosanct Trinity, all the angels and all the saints, and before all, we declare under oath that we solemnly consecrate our will to our Heavenly Mother. Amen. And you know, when we consecrate our will to our Heavenly Mother, she doesn't take it to be her own and exclusive. of the Lord. No, she embellishes it with her own perfections of love for the Lord, and then gives all that we give to her to the Lord with her motherly appeal for our good, that we may become more perfectly sons and daughters of the divine will. The Lord be with you. May Almighty God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Let us strive to only and always want what God wants. God bless you all.